Overnight, brown and green have turned to white as we wake up to a winter wonderland outside of Innsbruck, Austria. A lot of snowfall setting a beautiful backdrop for day number 2 of World Cup Luge as the EBERSPÄCHER Luge World Cup Tour continues with today's action, men's singles and the team relay. Good morning and hello once again, everyone. I'm Tim Singer, pleased to be bringing you live coverage around the world. Yesterday, there was some exciting races in the doubles competitions, as well as the women's singles, with victories by both Austria and the Latvians during the 3 races. As you see, they're prepping the track, roughly about 6 centimeters of snowfall overnight. We'll get you those updated weather conditions in just a little bit, but as you can see, the visual conditions are a little tricky as we get set for the first time this weekend to race from the top of the track. This is stop number 2 on the EBERSPÄCHER Luge World Cup. Last week we were in Lillehammer, Norway, and next week we shuffle off to Oberhof, Germany. Up at the top, Kobayashi's sled getting ready. He'll be the first to go, the first of 30.
After run 1.
And Sean Hollander, you just heard, of the U.S., predicting that Kobayashi will be in first place after run number 1, and he will be after one sled comes down. Wolfie Kindle will, of course, be a factor on his home track, where he won the World Championship 5 years ago. And the Latvians more concerned with the snowballs than they are with the sled prep. Actually, both go hand in hand as they're getting that snow to get the runners just perfect for today's weather conditions. Once again, we're live on YouTube and we welcome our viewers from around the world. Waking up early in some locations. We can see Evan is already on board, and Artur, thanks for tuning in. Ludwig Rieder, our good friend, longtime doubles specialist. As we look at Johnny Gustafsson there, Johnny had an impressive 5th place finish last week, equaling his career best. Did very well on that Lillehammer track at Hundertfossen. Alex Ferlazzo, looking to improve on last week's result a little bit. Alex has finished as high as 5th in international races, and that was at the World Championships. We see that Dana Kellogg has just logged on to our YouTube chat. And Dana, if you could please give me and everyone an update on how your shoulder is. We'd love to hear from you, as Ashley Farquharson is helping her American teammates there prepping the sled. Dominic Fischnaller in the background, Valley Cretu in the foreground. A lot of athletes over the last half hour or so have headed to that start ramp just to get one last check to see how things are. Josef Ninnis will be going a little later on in the seated group. Jonas Mueller won this race on his home track in Innsbruck last season. We were here in mid-January, a rare after the New Year appearance. And there's Christian Igatlier, head coach of the Austrian team. He's done wonders with this squad. And in men's singles in Austria 2 seasons ago, the home team took places 1, 2, 3, and 4 in a total display of domination.
Lieber Ottmar, da hast du jetzt mal wieder sehr genau aufgepasst, aber nichtsdestotrotz 10:25 Uhr, das heißt noch 5 Minuten bis zum Rennstart, jetzt aber 5 minutes to the start.
There's a look at the former lower start, now obsolete, at least in World Cup competition, still being used, of course, as a junior start. But it was great yesterday to see all of the activity from the new higher start for both the women's singles and the men's doubles. This update comes in from Dana. The shoulder is better. He will not be going to Oberhof next week, but hopes to be back soon. So Dana, we hope to see you and Frank back after the new year and recover quickly, recover well. now a good look at this track. It was built in the 1960s originally, an old natural track version put together for the 1964 Olympic Games, the first Olympics to feature the sport of luge. It was upgraded in 1976, and there have been many other construction upgrades, including right now as they're working on a 2-year plan to modernize this track. It will be done, they believe, in 2026, but it's still in great racing shape. And here's a look from the top. It was in the race in January that the track record was set by Jonas Müller, a 49.268. Quickly, they've got these very wide turns to negotiate in the upper part of the track. And here they meet what is now the new start area for the women and the doubles, as on your left they pass the old lower start. And they head their way into the 270-degree Kreisel corner, where there will be a lot of spectators, a lot of cowbells, some horns, and some blue vine being sipped. Curve 8, and this is a big one right here, curve 9. Corner 9 hits you on a straightaway to the high banking curve 10, a left-hand turn. The lower labyrinth or S portion, which could be more difficult for the men than it is at the lower start. Finally uphill to a finish about where the pad will be later today, the team relay. Track record by Jonas Müller. The start record is a 12-year-old start record set by Johannes Ludwig. More on that in a second. As you see, the air temperature hovering about 0. 4, 5, 6 centimeters of snow fell overnight, and still very light snow in the air, but very little in the way of wind. Johannes Ludwig holding a lot of start records. Tucker West may be gunning for that a little later on this morning. He set a start record last week in Lillehammer. Happy holidays, one and all. 30 start, only 20 will qualify for run number 2. Leon Felderer in the number 2 position. David Nussler, he won the Nations Cup yesterday. He's at start position number 5. Defending race winner Jonas Müller will be the first of the seeded group, leading a strong group of Austrians. And it shoots down to the rest of the qualifiers, who make up start positions 19 through 30. Great to see so many people tuning in. If you have questions, comments, criticisms, complaints, trivia to throw out there, by all means, jump on the chat on our live YouTube channel, and we'll hear your opinions. We'd love to hear from you. Working at it alone this weekend from our broadcast control central, so I can use all the help I can get. We expect a lot more in the way of spectators as the morning moves along. Yesterday, a great crowd on hand from all over the world. We saw Latvian spectators, we saw fans from the USA, from, of course, nearby Italy and Germany. Italian fans in the background already. Italy figures to do pretty well here. Leon Felderer will be second up. Dominic Fischnala, who has won on this track in the past, will be up during the seeded group. And now just moments away from the bell ringing, the 30-second clock, and the start of run number 1. We are outside of the village of Eagles, which is just outside of the city of Innsbruck. Grabbing the handles now from Team Japan, 23-year-old Saya Kobayashi. Kobayashi is from Nagano, which happens to be his favorite track as well. One of 3 tracks on the continent of Asia.
dem vermeintlichen Doppelsitzer. Damenstart sind wir ja da von der neuen Starthöhe gestartet. Jetzt also vom Herrenstart Seiya Kobayashi aus Japan wird jetzt also hier das Rennen eröffnen.
Now it appears we have a little bit of a hold, so we'll try to get some information from Matthias to see what's going on down at the finish. Patrick or Matthias, if you can pass that along, that would be great. Just moments before the start of the first sled, we have some sort of track hold. We'll try to pass that along. Kobayashi was in position. He was getting ready.
Allzeit.
Aber eben, es gibt da jetzt noch ein Thema. Schmeckt der Schnee? Ja, der Schnee schmeckt.
Ken writes in this morning from the USA, always on board with his great website, Sliding on Ice, for all of the latest news, luge, bobsled, and skeleton. And Kobayashi has a long wait there as we have a slight hold on the track.
Seiya Kobayashi, jetzt nimmt da wieder Platz auf seiner Rodel.
Eight times over the years, the opening World Cup race has been held here in the Tyrol region of Austria. This is stop number 2, of course, this season.
Platzierung bei Olympischen Spielen erreicht, nämlich die beiden Kobayashi-Brüder. 1972 war das Ganze, da gab es einen Ex-Aequo-Sieg von Hornlein Bredow aus der DDR und Paul Hilgardner, Walter Bleikner, den langjährigen Trainer, der Italiener.
Ja, das war eine Zeit, da haben sie vom Lager noch nichts gewusst.
This is a little unnerving, especially if you are an athlete and you've gone through your routine. You've programmed the minutes before your start. And finally, we get the green light. We're ready to start action here as the Asian singles luge champion grabs those handles quickly, and he's off with 2 paddles, a safe settle onto this long start ramp. The Olympic Sliding Center, Innsbruck, Austria, World Cup stop number 2. World Cup is 2 runs, combined time competition. So should Kobayashi make it into the second run, they will resume the clock right down where the finish time is. Total time wins it all. Curve 9, a bit of a skid onto the near wall and pretty high in 10. Now the lower S curve. Seiko Kobayashi of Japan. Start number 1 this morning in Austria with a finish time of 50.567. Caroline always hamming it up in that coach's area.
Starting number 1, Japan, Seiya Kobayashi.
3 paddles, well done. As a point of reference, that start time of 50.567 is 1.3 seconds off of the start record. Not surprising, given A, this is not an athlete you would expect to contend for a track record, and B, somewhat humid and snowy conditions. Actually very humid and somewhat snowy. All right, we welcome to the start area now. Competitor number 2 finished in 4th in Friday's Nations Cup qualifying. The athlete representative to the executive board of the International Luge Federation. 24-year-old Leon Felderer from Letzfans, Südtirol. Does a nice job settling on this, his home track. Leon states his favorite track is St. Moritz. We're not headed to Switzerland for competition this year, but what a lovely location with incredible natural ice on what is the longest track in the world. 15 thousandths of a second up. As you saw, Leon was trailing the Japanese athlete on the upper part of the track. Now he's looking for his advantage to increase as he winds his way to the finish. 50.435, pretty safe margin, 1300ths up on Japan. With 30 sleds heading down today, it will be really interesting to see how well the track holds up. There is a new start order protocol this year. You may recall, up until this season, all of the qualifying sleds, those not in the seeded group, were the first to go. And with so many races last year held in warm conditions, by the time we hit the seeded athletes, the track had often deteriorated and made for sometimes interesting, sometimes called unfair racing. So this year, we only have 5 from the qualifying group to start off run number 1. The rest will go after the seeded athletes. And Andre Manzi finished 3rd in Friday's Nations Cup. 36-year-old from Kremenetz, now on the ice. Manzi with the 3rd fastest time of the 3 that have come down so far. He moves now ahead of Leon Felderer. You saw the Italian Felderer was not happy with his run, given his facial expression down at the bottom. Now Manzi, the former tennis player from Ukraine, up to the finish. 50.426, 9 thousandths of a second up on Leon Felderer. So far, they are holding to form from their top 5. Friday's Nations Cup, we have 2 other qualifiers still getting ready before we hit the seeded group.
Aber okay, wie gesagt, Fehler darf man sich nicht leisten. Fehler werden gnadenlos bestraft. So, jetzt kommt ein ganz interessanter Mann. Jetzt kommt Josef Ninisch, Jahrgang 81. Das heißt also...
Most nerve-wracking place to be on a luge course is that coach's box, watching your athletes compete. Josef Niniš, now from Slovakia, part of the police sport club program. The only athlete remaining on the World Cup Luge Tour who competed not just at the Olympics in 2022, 2018, 2014, or 2010, but Niniš also was part of the 2006 games in Torino, Italy. So a 5-time Olympian. His best ever result was at his most recent Olympics, 21st place in Beijing. Friday's 2nd place finish in the Nations Cup marked the 8th podium finish on Nations Cup in Niniš's long career. He also has a World Cup podium back in 2018 in Segula. To the finish, finding the green right down there at the bottom. Racing times are pretty close here, 200ths of a second separating Slovakia from Ukraine at the moment. Good look from down below. 1 paddle, 2 paddles, 3. That's the tradition for a lot of them. It looked like Josef had a 4th paddle. Good to see. Good morning to Kathleen, to Maurizio, Giancarlo. They're logging into our YouTube live chat, rooting for their various athletes around the world. Friday's Nations Cup qualifying race was won by this man, Germany's David Nuschler from Oberhof. began in the sport in 2009 and now has been part of the national team for the past 4 seasons. David finished in 21st in the overall World Cup rankings last season, only competing in the first half of competition, not race in any of the second half races. Nice job, exit of curve 9, transition to 10. He's been in the green for most of this run. This should be a first place time. 50.044 by a wide margin. Nussler takes it over the rest of the qualifying group. Big lead right now. And I say this often, but week in and week out, the racers who win or have the top couple of positions even in Nations Cup usually find their way into the top 10 in the next day's World Cup race. Often they've been relegated to Nations Cup because they may have missed a race or they had one bad race in the previous 3 weeks. So now all eyes on the top. We hit the seeded group and we hit it hard with our first athlete, Jonas Müller. Jonas from right here in Austria, a former world champion, a 5-time winner on the World Cup, including right here on this track in Innsbruck just last season. 27 years old, from the town of Bludenz, which is where the second Austrian Luge track sits, the newest track in the world until they complete that one in Cortina. Jonas already with a 0.2 of a second advantage over everyone else. What a great start position for him to draw the first of the seeded group. Through the lights, through the fog, and into the finish. 49.595, still well off the track record, but a huge lead over everyone else, nearly 1/2 second. This could hold for the rest of the run. It will be interesting to see. 6 down, 24 still to go. What a terrific run from Müller. The Austrians did not get a ton of activity that they usually get during the preseason at home, simply because this site is a construction area where they've been working a lot of parts of this track. But still, that home cooking helps quite a bit as we continue with our first Latvian, INNSBRUCK. Not the straightest line down that start ramp. Let's see how the start time looks. Only the 3rd fastest from a Latvian program that always puts down competitive starts. Bjerzic, the 2020 Youth Olympic gold medalist for that competition that was held in Switzerland. Last season in Innsbruck, Bjerzic had a 12th place finish, 12th behind Müller's win. Right now he's already a 1/2 second behind the Austrian, or 4/10, skidding a bit as well on the lower S's. Latvia crosses in 6th overall. A little bit of a rough run from start to finish for INNSBRUCK. Just slightly off on his lines right from the start, not down the center of that start ramp. A little too much steering.
Manchi auf 4 der Ukrainer und Leon Felderer auf
Curve
Platz
9.
5. Aber wie gesagt,
Not bad
da kommen
there.
Die ganz großen Kaliber kommen jetzt der Reihe nach. Jetzt kommt ein interessanter Mann aus den USA, nämlich Jonathan Eric Gustafsson. Der ist super gestartet, in Lillehammer, der Mann aus den Bundesstaaten.
Will this be a breakout season for this man from the United States? Johnny Gustafsson last season finished 10th in the World Cup overall. He opened up this year with a career-tying best 5th place finish last week in Lillehammer, and also slid his way onto the podium in the team singles competition. Johnny very quick at the start generally, but not today. A 5.426, the 7th fastest start of the 8 who have made their way down the track. So in weather conditions like this, it's going to be very hard to turn from red to green as these athletes make their way down the track. 27-year-old athlete from Messina, New York, which is as close as you can get to Canada and still be in the United States. Form looks good in the lower S curves. The 3rd place time behind Austria and Germany for the USA. Let's take a closer look at what happened with Johnny here. Start looks good. Paddles look strong. Time was not sensational. But exit 9 was very good. The head tucked back down the center, off of 10. Johnny, the first of 4 USA athletes in today's race.
Didn't poop myself. All good.
All good, says Johnny Gustafsson. And all eyes back to the top. Dominic Fischnaller, Olympic bronze medalist with 9 career World Cup victories. Dominic has also won on this track, which is not that far away from his home, Mioransin, Südtirol, northern Italy. Dominic's all-time favorite luge athlete, Paul Hildgardner, the Italian legend who captured gold at the 1984 Winter Olympic Games in Sarajevo, then Yugoslavia. Nice exit of 9. He knows this track well, but he trails Mueller by 0.3 of a second. If he is not in the top 3, we're already going to be saying, how well is this track holding up? Well, he did a nice job down at the bottom, stopped the bleeding of the time at some point around curve 10 or 11. So that's a good sign for some of the athletes still to come. 3rd place, though, behind Austria and Germany.
So, das war der Südtiroler, der, wie gesagt, hier schon gewonnen hat. Und jetzt geht's weiter mit einem US-Amerikaner, der vor allem in seiner Heimat schon erfolgreich war.
Right now, top 5, Austria, Germany, Italy, USA, Slovakia. 9 down, 21 to go. Dominic always looks so calm, win, lose, or draw. Tucker West, the 2nd from the USA, and we welcome to our live telecast on the chat Aiden, who's watching back home. Aiden, a former Olympic teammate of Tucker West. Tucker without a start record. In fact, he did not have a great line down that start ramp. 4th fastest for the athlete, originally from Connecticut, who has captured 3 World Cup wins during his career, including in Whistler, where this year's World Championships will be held in just about 7 weeks. Tucker West already a half second off the pace. Likely battling Johnny Gustafson for a place in the team relay later on today. Tucker has proven to be amazing in that discipline, in that sport. Right now in 9th place, tied to the 1,000th of a second, in fact, with Saya Kobayashi, both of them trailing the pack at the moment. And you'll see on Tucker's face he's not going to be pleased with that run. Tough to see through the fog, but you get a look that Tucker just veered a little too far to the right, his right, of that start ramp. Settled in pretty nicely, but the damage may have already been done. Tucker knows this track well. Gets the green light. All of the athletes push the button down at the bottom. They get the light that will determine how much, if any, they will be checked, their sled will be checked. Light snow falling, great to see over the last couple of seasons. Anton Dukash of Ukraine becoming a regular among the seeded group. Last season, Dukash had a 19th place finish on the Innsbruck track. Ukraine without its own track and with its own troubles in their own country, they do all of their training in other nations. I believe that the Ukrainians spend a fair amount of time in Latvia, and I'm not sure how much ice time they get here in Innsbruck. Finding an interesting line out of curve 9. Already 7/10 of a second back at that last split. So trying to keep it within a second. This will be an 11th place finish. 50.769. His teammate Andre Monze stays in 6th place right now. Dukash generally gets the call in team relay, but it looks at least now to be advantage Monze.
Egal, 200 war er in Lillehammer nur am Sieg vorbeigeschrammt. Gemeint ist natürlich unser Wolfgang Kindl, der gestern schon im Doppelsitzer auf Rang 3 gefahren ist, mit dem Vorantreiberfahren auf der Wurststock. Also aufgewacht. Als nächster Österreicher. Wir haben einen Österreicher in Führung. Und jetzt kommt
Wolfie Kindl, now 36 years old. He battled illness over the summer. He's had back injuries over the last couple of years, and he just keeps coming back. He's as good as ever. He captured the World Championship on this track 5 years ago. Kindl has improved his starts over the past couple of years. That used to be his albatross, but now the Olympic medalist on course and already enjoying a great season with 2 podiums in doubles and 1 in men's singles in just this second weekend. The music in the Kreisel. Kindl on a track he has likely been down more than any other athlete racing this weekend. Perfect out of exit 9. With lines like this and the speed we know that Kindl gets, it's amazing that he's 2300ths back. And we've got to chalk that up a bit to track conditions. But it's Austria 1-2. Bear in mind, as I said earlier, 2 seasons ago, it was Austria 1-2-3-4 at the end of the race.
Es ist fantastisch. Aber fantastisch ist schon die Zeit von Jonas Müller. 49,59.
Ja, aber was das Ganze wert ist, hat man, das werden wir in den nächsten Minuten.
Wolfie Kindl, 2300ths behind Jonas Müller. We've got the super seed, if you will, the top 6 seeded athletes still to come to see who can knock off, if any, Jonas Müller. We've got 2 Austrians in that group, the Gleischer brothers still coming up. Before them, we have a Luge legend in Felix Locke. Felix said earlier in the week that he really likes this Innsbruck track, but he's not kidding anyone. He acknowledges, he says, that Austria dominates here, and that has certainly been in evidence in the early going. Felix with the 4th fastest start time here midway through run number 1, 1700s back. Do not look for this to move into the green, but let's see how close Felix can keep it. He loses another 700s. Nice line out of curve 9, nearly perfect line. 2400s. In the lower labyrinth, Felix Locke, he kept it exactly even down at the bottom. He was 2400s back out of curve 10, stayed 2400s. So a good sign of the German sled setup, and a good sign that maybe a couple of other of the remaining sliders could make their way into the top 5. As we check out Felix again in the 270-degree Kreisel, it's Austria's Müller and Kindl holding the top 2 spots. Felix is in 3rd ahead of his country mate, David Nussler. Max Langenhahn picked up where he left off last year when he cruised to the World Cup overall title. Opens this season with a win in Lillehammer. Last year in Innsbruck, Max finished in 3rd place, which ended a lengthy winning streak. He had captured the previous 9 World Cup races. That's how dominating that this Thuringian has been over the last few seasons. As he passes the new lower start for the women's and doubles, Max early in the red here. 1700s. He's about even with the pace of Felix Locke at this point. 2300s. This is almost an identical run to what we just saw with Felix. Felix was 2400s back here. Can this be a top 3? Can he even make it into 2nd place, 5th place? But really tight right now. 5th place. He lost a lot of time down there at the bottom. I'm seeing on my computer as 4900s back. So we're getting an update. Yeah, we're getting updated standings on the computer, if not at the finish line on your monitors. So we'll try to keep you on top of that. Right now, just to review, it's Austria's Müller and Kindl, the top 2 positions, with Germany holding down 3, 4, and 5. Felix Locke, David Nussler, and Max Langenhahn in 5th place. 5th, by the way, if he held on to that spot, would be the lowest finish by Max Langenhahn in 2 years. Now the first of the brothers Gleiche. 27-year-old Nico Gleiche. Nico's 1 World Cup victory was on this track that was heading up the 1, 2, 3, 4 Austrian sweep to open up the 2022-23 season. Nico's favorite track is the one they are rebuilding in Königssee, Germany, which is the closest track in the world to Innsbruck outside of this track in Eagles. Only 700ths of a second back at the second to last split. So this is looking good for the Austrians once again at home. Will it be second? It is. 700ths back. Incredible run for Nico Gleiche. Third fastest start. David Gleiche still to come, but Austria 1, 2, 3 right now, and the celebration, as you hear in the background, is already underway here in Eagles, outside of Innsbruck.
Drei Österreicher vorne vor den ganz großen Favoriten Felix Loch, Max Langenhahn, Fischnaller. Alle momentan mehr als 3 Zehntelsekunden zurück. Okay, also das war...
That was a look of a worried coach right there. It's a lot of fun coming out of that tunnel when you're at home and you're in the top 2 currently in the standings. Starter number 16, Latvia's youth Olympic gold medalist, Kristers Apariods. Kristers with 5 World Cup wins. It took him a while once he got onto the World Cup circuit to make his way onto the podium. Once he did, he had several podium finishes, eventually some victories, and he's built on that. Last year, finishing behind Max Langenhahn and ahead of Felix Loch in 2nd place in the World Cup overall. 2800s back. Currently in about 9th place at that last interval. Now 3400s. He's crawling up a little bit. Needs to keep it together for a top 5 or 6. Great to see that the track is still yielding some good times. 8th place, 50.147. And all Candia, his sister, can do is shake her head as we make our way now late into the seeded group.
So, aber jetzt, Alex, kommt ein Olympiasieger.
Ja, Olympiasieger, Sprint-Weltmeister. Und hier in Innsbruck auch immer.
And that's where he gave away his chance to move up a few more positions.
3 sind in Führung, nur so mal drüber gestreut, das Ganze noch einmal.
1/2 second off the pace for Kristers Apariods, fastest of the Latvians. And the final member of this seeded group, those whom we would expect to contend for the top spots, is certainly a man who could contend. Olympic gold medalist David Gleicher. His brother currently in 2nd place. His other teammates holding positions 1 and 3. Will it be 1, 2, 3, 4 Austria at the end of this run? David has 1 World Cup win. That was on the Altenburg track, a 1/10 of a second back. If he keeps it right around there, he will be in the top 4 along with his teammates. Still holding at 1400s. Home cooking, I would say so. Austria figuring to hold the top 4 positions at the end of run number 1. To the finish in 3rd place. So we've made our way through the seeded group. Austria, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 2. I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Great job by David Gleicher. His start time was 8th fastest.
Ja, da fehlen einem wirklich die Worte. Wir hatten ja diese Geschichte schon einmal, glaube ich, vor 2 Jahren.
You got to believe that their parents, David and Nico's parents, Sabine and Gerhard, are on hand watching the action. Proud parents here. It's 1, 2, 3 for Austria, Germany 5, 6, 7. These two nations holding down all of the top 7 positions. Incredible as we make our way now to the rest of the qualifiers. And Alex Ferlazzo gets that dreaded number 18 start position, the first to go after the seeded athletes. Let's check out the Australian start time here. 7th fastest. Alex, 29 years old, from Townsville, Australia. training this season with the Canadian program and racing on Duncan Kennedy's equipment. His favorite track, the one in St. Moritz, which he calls fast, smooth, and spectacular.
Das ist jetzt die große Frage.
Na, also da kann niemand hereinfahren, da braucht man keine Experte zu sein.
Australia making it to the finish. We will not see Alex, unfortunately, in the team relay, but he did take part last week in the mixed team event. 15th place right now for Australia, Alex Barraza.
Der Australier ist im Ziel. Kann die Zeit leider da nicht sehen, aber wird auch gleich eingeblendet.
The Australian spectators have made it to Innsbruck.
Haut hin.
Last season, Alex's family came all the way to North America to watch the races in Lake Placid and Whistler.
Weiter geht's dann mit einem Athleten aus Polen. Mateusz Sochowicz ist der nächste mit der Nummer 19. 30 Herren sind am Start in diesem ersten Durchgang zum Eberspächer Weltcup 2024-25
Mateusz Sochowicz from Poland, 28 years old, from the town of Wrocław. Mateusz lists as his favorite foods pasta and pizza. That will load up the carbs for the luge race. Poland expected to be entered later today into the team relay event. As the band plays on, 6400's off. Let's see who in the qualifying group Mateusz will pick off here in run number 1. Best speeds we've seen so far have been in the area of about, trying to catch some speeds here. Top speeds are not working on our computer. 19th place right now for Sochowicz.
Rang 19, ja, da muss zittern, ob sich das noch ausgeht für den zweiten Durchgang. Einige starke Athleten sind schon oben, wie beispielsweise der nächste aus Italien, Lukas Bezzae, 20 Jahre jung.
Musste ich bitten, Ottmar, auf die nächsten 2, 3 Athleten kurz zu schauen. Kurzer organisatorischer Spaziergang.
Only the top 20 will qualify for run number 2. That's the new start protocol for this season. And it's more in line with what you see in some of the other winter sports, skiing, sleds, the skeleton sleds and bobsleigh, as they pair down the field and they make it pretty competitive in run number 1. A little nerve-wracking for the athletes, especially at this point in the event. Lucas Pecci, the next from Italy, the 3rd Italian in today's event from Bengen, 20 years old. A sled built by longtime Italian slider and coach Willy Huber. Pecci was a top 5 finisher last year at the World Championships in the race within a race, the under 23 category. This is looking like an 18th, 17th place, although these lines are not perfect down below. As the Italian comes to the finish line, he is in 18th place. Sandra Robacher down there at the finish, showing her support for her Italian teammate.
Ja, die Italiener hatten ja bis in die 90er Jahre großartige Athleten, ja auch 2000 noch.
20 have now come down. Mateusz Sochowicz sits in 20th position. He'll be watching very closely over the next 4 or 5. Once we get to the back half of these final 10 sleds, it may be very difficult for anyone to make their way into run number 2. Marian Skupek, the next to go from Slovakia.
So. 50:63 war die Zeit für Lukas Pezaj.
His sled manufacturer he lists as ME, which I don't believe is the ME sled company. I believe he makes his own sleds. His goal for this season is a top 15 overall. That's very ambitious. It would be great to see at least a couple of top 15 race results for Skupek, who last year had a best result twice, 18th place. Curve 9 has not presented a lot of problems for the men today. Lower Labyrinth has not been too problematic, but not perfect for a lot of these athletes as well. 19th place right now. That pushes Sokovic out of run number 2. It puts Anton Dukash on the bubble right now in 20th place.
Dass ein zweiten Durchgang noch einmal dabei ist, da hat man die Möglichkeit, sich vielleicht doch noch zu verbessern. All jene, die eben nicht in die Top 20 kommen, die werden eben einfach so gereicht, wie sie in den ersten Durchgang reingekommen sind. Aber für sie ist das Rennen vorbei.
Melde mich wieder zurück zum Dienst.
Nearby Innsbruck, Austria is the capital of the Tyrol region with a population of about 150,000 residents. Beautiful city that sits in between mountain ranges and a low valley. About 2,000 meters, about 1,000 meters below where we are now. 2 athletes from Sweden qualified out of the seeded, or the Nations Cup, I should say, on Friday. The fastest of those 2, 20-year-old Rasmus Moberg. He was born in Stockholm, but now lives outside of the mainland. Competing on a sled built by the Austrians. Good form here by Moberg of Sweden, 0.8 of a second, hard off of curve number 9. Stays just off of the wall, perhaps taps it with a foot down as well. Quickly out of 10. Let's see how much time he loses. It's going to be hard pressed to be top 20. It's 22nd place for Sweden. Tova Koala over there on the right. Competed yesterday in the women's event. And while Sweden was able to take part in mixed team last week, they cannot field a full team for the team relay this weekend. Not a great start line, but a really good correction here. I guess the foot went down, tapped the wall, and Rasmus' week is done here in Innsbruck as he heads to Germany. Speaking of Germany, here's the next of our German athletes, the 4th and final. The winner of the Nations Cup last week in Lillehammer, and he also had a very good World Cup race, a career best 4th for Timon Grancagnolo on that Hunderfossen track a week ago today. And now the 21-year-old on course here in Innsbruck. Timon finished 16th at this World Cup in Austria last season. Grancagnolo from Oberwiesenthal, Germany, which I believe is in the Saxony region. His home track, sliding out of the Oberhof track. Now this is looking to be possibly a top 13, top 14 run. Austria and Germany have separated themselves from the rest of the nations here in run number 1 in the Eagles. And let's see where Timon ends up. 11th place. So this late, that's a very good showing. While Austria holds positions 1, 2, 3, 4 in the rankings right now, Germany's at 5, 6, 7, and 11. It's Marian Škrupek of Slovakia now sitting in 20th position. He'll be watching these final few sleds with great interest. German's doubles team from yesterday, they're watching activity as we head back to the start. Kaspers Rinks, 21-year-old. The Latvian will be competing full-time this season. Kasper's sports motto is, "He who does not risk does not win." And Luge is all about overcoming obstacles, being up to the challenge, and yes, even taking some risks on your way from the top to the bottom. Find that extra speed. Team in Grancagnolo just made his way down the track, and our thanks to Suzanne for the update, as Tiemann's home track is the Altenburg track. But back to Rinks here on this Eagles track, out of curve 10. He's sitting really close to that number 20 position right now. He crosses in 19th, 50.577. He doesn't yet make it into run number 2, but for the time being, he's sitting safely in the top 20 as Italy's Lucas Pecci has been relegated now to the number 20 spot. 6 still remain here. Of those 6, any of the next 3 could potentially be in the top 20. Cretu is up next. Matthew Greiner raced here last year, one of his first, if not his very first World Cup. Alex Gufla knows the Italian track well. 4th Italian in today's race. Vali Cretu took part in the last several Olympics. In fact, Cretu's Olympic history for Romania dates all the way back to the 2010 Olympics in Whistler. Took part in Sochi, Pyeongchang, Yangjing, Beijing. Cretu did not make it into run number 2 last week in the World Cup in Lillehammer, so an obvious goal here. 65 hundredths off the pace, not looking good. We're probably looking at a 23, 24th place position. Unfortunate, and this is, I stand corrected, this is Svante Koala. So my apologies as Svante crosses in 22nd place. Cretu on deck. Svante, the second of the 2 from Sweden. His mother, Anne, is on the jury this week, the race jury here at the World Cup. Great facial look on Svante as he paddles his way down. The start ramp makes the exit of curve 9. Looking pretty solid there, but just not getting the speed that he wanted. Svante in 22nd place. And now after that huge prelude, we turn our attention to Valentin Cretu, 35 years old, from Sanaia, Romania. He started in the sport of luge in the year 2000. Very nice job. Right down the center of that start ramp. And a smooth settle for the Romanian.
5.48 the starting time.
Doch schon sehr
Another advantage for the Austrians, who are leading the way, is they will be the last to go, of course, in run number 2. The track sometimes gets a little beaten up, but now with only 20 and not 30 sliders going in the second run, it will be a little more to their advantage than it used to be in years past. Romania now making their way down to the bottom. Valentin Cretu, his teammate, still to come. 1.174, not a qualifying time for run number 2 for Valentin Cretu. 4 remain here. Austria in positions 1, 2, 3, and 4. Germany 5, 6, and 7. As far as the other nations, top Italian Dominic Fischneller in 8th. Top Latvian Kristers Aparios in 9th. And in 10th, the top from the USA, Johnny Gustafsson. Slovakia, Ukraine, Australia also in the top 20, as is Japan. And in that very nerve-wracking 20th place at the moment, Lucas Pecci of Italy. Presumably Valley, as always, saying hello to his family back in Romania. Matthew Greiner, 21 years old, out of the Park City, Utah program. The World Cup will return to Greiner's home track next season in the early going. Now this one I have to follow up on next time I see Matt. He lists as his occupation valet. I'm not sure if that means he has to carry Tucker and Johnny's sleds for them. So we'll get a little clarification. Greiner's goal, very simple this year. It's to make it into the second run every week. Well, it starts here. Let's see how Greiner can do down here at the bottom. He is outside looking in at that last interval, and he remains outside. 25th place. It could be that the track is in tough condition. No one will make it into the top 20 at this point. Very possible.
Und jetzt kommt ein Südtiroler, der könnte es schon noch schaffen, eventuell in die Top 20 zu kommen, nämlich Alex Gufler.
Coming off corner number 9 with a couple of slight foot taps. Always amazes me whether that's a conscious move or a natural instinct to put the foot down when danger is lurking. Another head shake down at the bottom. That's been a pretty regular occurrence today. Starter number 28 is the final from Italy, Alex Gufla. Popular name in Südtirol and Luge. Gufla, not as popular as Huber. He will try to knock his teammate Lucas Pecci out of the top 20. .4400s back. This track is not going to give anyone anything anymore. Top 20, very unlikely based on the mid-interval. Not a bad line out of 9 into 10, but no shot here at the top 20, unfortunately, for Alex Gufla. 23rd place, 50.759. Sandra knows how to play for the camera down there.
Die hat schon gezeigt gegen den Himmel. Die Bedingungen sind natürlich jetzt für die Letzten nicht besser geworden, nicht einfacher geworden. Und daher natürlich kaum ermöglicht, da vorne reinzufahren.
A little later on today, we've got the team relay, first team relay, presented by BMW, first of the season, in a discipline that has been part of the Olympics now since 2014. Really an exciting race. Even if you have to take a 20-minute nap in between men's singles and the team relay, it will be worth it to stay up and watch that. Double thumbs up for the last couple of sleds coming up at the top.
Aus Rumänien.
Eddie Krejcian pulled out of last week's World Cup season opener in Lillehammer moments before the race. Or actually, no, he made that decision a day before. So Eddie making his singles debut here in Innsbruck this season. 24-year-old. His best World Cup finish was a 19th place finish in Altenburg in 2023. Really, we've been seeing all of the times of the most recent sleds nearly reflecting their bib numbers. We have one more American still to come. But Eddie Krejcian not looking at a run number 2. He comes down in 28th place. Significantly, that's 4 positions behind Valentin Cretu, as Cretu figures to be the representative for Romania later today in team relay. Only one remaining now here in run number 1. Only one other chance for an athlete to knock out Pecci and end up in the top 20. Great attitude down at the bottom by Krejcian. And here's 20-year-old Aiden Mueller. Aiden, a part-time student, part-time luger. Grew up outside of New York City on Long Island in West Iceland. Little airport in West Iceland. Former hockey player, baseball player, and now luger through the Kreisel. We're approaching the Kreisel here. Tenths of a second off, and Mueller with no shot at the top 20 here. They will clean up this ice. They'll get it ready for run number 2. They'll make it favorable again, especially for those first few athletes. But there's nothing Mueller could do to try to claw back in here. He holds on to his bib number. That's his finishing position as well. 30 out of 30 for the young American. His first full season on the World Cup. As you see there, light snow falling. Some tracks around the world are completely covered, where the snowfall is just maybe a little bit of an issue at worst. Innsbruck, not one of those tracks. When it snows, it slows down the track.
Und dann 7. Platz habe ich jetzt noch auf den Augenwinkel gesehen. Da wird mir zu schnell umgeschaltet, als dass ich das hier bekommen kann. Aber egal, der Deutsche hinter
As they'll set things up for run number 2, we've got an Austria party happening here in Innsbruck, Austria. 1, 2, 3, 4, and only 200 separating Jonas Mueller from Nico Gleischer, the last 2 winners on this track the last 2 seasons. Germany will try to break up that Austrian party as they sit in 5th, 6th, and 7th, followed by Italy, Latvia, and the USA. Germany just outside of the top 10 as well, and they will count them down. Great to see Australia and Japan make it into run number 2. Tucker West has some work to do to try to fight his way back into the top 15, while places 21 through 30 will head to Oberhof unless they compete a little later on today in team relay. So we've got run number 2 coming up in about 20 minutes. Take a little break, grab a second cup of coffee, and we hope to see you right back here in Innsbruck for the second heat at the EBERSPÄCHER Luge World Cup.